want to stop and take some time and give you a clue or a view as to what you can actually do with the Bible. This is going to be a series of about 11 shorts, typology shorts. We're going to talk about Bible typology, and so that you can get a glimpse of what TRC is going to be like from my perspective. There are a couple other brothers who will be speaking as well. But for me personally, my gift is definitely Bible typology is my strong suit. So let's get into it and look at some Bible typology shorts. Now, the purpose of the Bible, if we didn't have sin, if sin never existed, we would never have a need for the Bible. So the Bible came into existence to deal with sin. Hence, it is to point us to the one and only remedy for sin, and that is Yeshua the Messiah, Jesus Christ, right? So the purpose of the Bible, for whatsoever things are written aforetime or written for our learning, it says in Romans 15:4, that we, through patience and comfort of the scriptures, might have hope. So the Bible is there to give us hope, and typology plays a major part in that. All scripture is given by inspiration of God and is profitable for doctrine, for reproof, for correction, for instructions in righteousness, that the man of God may be perfect, thoroughly furnished unto all good works. The scriptures are there to perfect us. Sin brought us to a place of degradation. The scriptures are given to us to bring us back. And we're going to look at how it brings us back by first giving us proof that God is real, proof that Christ was who he said he was. And that can only be done through Bible typology. Demons can work miracles, right? But there's a proof that the Bible gives that beyond demonic ability or anyone's ability. That's what makes the Christian religion different from every other religion on the planet. The Bible has proof. Muhammad is called a prophet, yet there are no prophecies in the Quran, right? No sound prophecies in the Quran that you can look back and you can see the rise of nations, the rise of kingdoms, the names of individuals foreshadowed from the Old Testament, like from the Quran, like it is from the Old Testament. The Bible's unique on that front. Not Hinduism, not Buddhism. None of these religious entities have any ability to give that proof because that God has reserved to himself, right? Moving on. Now, inspiration is needed to understand the Bible. Spiritual things are spiritually discerned, it tells us in 1 Corinthians 2:14. So the Spirit is needing. Now, the Bible is allegorical in nature. The allegorical nature of the Bible, it is literal, truly literal events. They're literal events. Abraham did exist, Adam did exist, Cain and Abel, you go down the list. These people all lived in the past, but their stories or their lives were shaped in such a way by divine providence that it reflected the future course of the entire world. And this is not unique to any one book of the Bible. All of the Bible is like this. The New Testament book of Matthew, same thing, right? Mark, and I'm not just talking or speaking in terms of, this one verse. I'm talking sequences of prophecies, and I'll show you how to find them in a second. Sequences of prophecies. Now, the typological nature of the Bible, God spoke to the prophets, the Bible says in Hosea 12:10, in similitudes. Its word is there is translated parables in the NIV, but that same word is also translated parables in other places in the Old Testament. It's just translated similitudes in the King James Version. Now, what is a parable? Remember, God spoke to the prophets in parables. So we would need the Holy Spirit, just like the Jews didn't understand Christ's parabolic speaking. It's the same thing with us today. If we don't have the Spirit, we will not see the depth of the parables that are in the scriptures. Sorry, going back a little bit there. Now a parable, backing up, a parable is a short allegorical story designed to illustrate or teach some truth, religious principle, or moral lesson. That's what it is. Now, what is an allegory? An allegory is a figurative sentence or discourse in which the principal subject is described by another subject resembling it in its properties and circumstances. The principal subject is thus kept out of view, and we are left to collect the intentions of the writer or speaker by the resemblance of the secondary to the primary. And the primary in this case is one person. It's Christ and the plan of redemption, right? That's what the primary is. So Paul, understanding this, says this in the book of Galatians chapter 4, verse 22. For it is written, Abraham had two sons, the one by a bondmaid and the other by a free woman. But he who was of the bondwoman was born after the flesh, and he of the free woman by promise, which things are an allegory, for these are two covenants. So Sarah and Hagar represent two covenants. Hagar, having the child first, represents the Old Covenant or the Old Testament, which is sacrifices and offerings, and the Jewish people as a nation in their rejection of Christ as well. And take this principle to heart. There are many stories with more than one woman in it, with a man who's married to more than one woman. Jacob, Leah, and Rachel. Leah is the old or the elder sister, like the Old Testament. Rachel is the younger, the New Testament. That's why the child who gets the birthright, who the firstborn's birthright passes to and gets a double portion, was Joseph. He's a symbol of Christ, and he comes under his mother Rachel, who is the same woman symbolized in the book of Revelations chapter 12. Study Revelations chapter 12. That woman is Rachel, and she only has two children in that chapter. All right, moving on. Now, what we're talking about, for those who may not understand yet, is type and antitype. A type is a symbol. The antitype is the real thing. If I called you a pig, you would think one of two things, or people would think one of two things if I call any person a pig. They were either nasty or untidy, or they were morbidly obese, right? So we use typology all the time in our language and speech in every culture. So God is not speaking to us in something that we cannot understand, but it still needs the Spirit's power and wisdom to see what's actually written in the stories and hidden there, right? Now, here's Christ, right? As Jonas was 3 days and 3 nights in a whale's belly, so shall the Son of Man be. As it was in the days of Noah, so shall it also be. Likewise in the days of Lot. And again, I don't want to make this seem more simple than it actually is. I really need you to understand what's going on here. Christ is, now when he mentions Lot, when he mentions Noah, when he mentions Jonah, he's not simply saying just that one phrase that he uses, the 3 days and 3 nights. The entire story of Noah is a prophecy. Every chapter and every verse contains a prophecy concerning the end time. But we have to go and define the symbolism, the numbers, and see what it points to, right? Same thing with Lot. The entire story of Lot, the entire story of Abraham, it's not just a piece here and a piece there. There's a sequence of prophecies going on that reflect what we find in the book of Revelation in those stories. Okay, not just, you just see the word Babylon, for example, in the book of Kings comes and destroys Jerusalem. We read that, or we see it in Jeremiah, and we just take it to heart to say, oh, we see Babylon, so it's some similarity. No, God is giving us the big picture of the symbolism in Revelation in a very detailed fashion in the Old Testament story of Kings, right? And not story, but history of Kings, because they're not stories, they're literal events. So the experience of Israel as they were attacked by Babylon, the disobedience of their leadership reflects our history. Details, not synopsises, not analogies, they're allegories. The intent, these things were recorded with the intent of filling us in on all the things that are supposed to take place that we need to know as Christians, a Seventh-day Adventists. Moving on. Ecclesiastes 3:5, right? That which has been is now, and that which is to be has already been. and God requireth that which is past. Okay? The Jews as a nation, you see it here on your screen. The Jews as a nation understood this, and that's how they studied the scriptures. But because they were not spiritual, they didn't see the Messiah in it or how he would come. The disciples were also blinded by their sins and by their own preconceived ideas and indoctrination. And trust me, we all are as well. So these things are truly spiritual. When Nicodemus asked the Sanhedrin or the Pharisees, does our Lord judge any man before it hear him? And this is what they answered. They answered and said unto him, art thou also of Galilee? Search and look, for out of Galilee ariseth no prophet. So they were in the habit of doing what? Searching and looking. Searching and looking. We're Seventh-day Adventists. Ellen White is a prophet. Do you know that Ellen White's name and James White and the rise of the Adventist Church, they are pointed out in the Old Testament more clearly than we can ever believe to see it in Revelation? Ellen White is pointed out by name. And not only pointed out by name, as James pointed out, but their marriage to a combination of history and the Old Testament scriptures. You can find James White in the Bible more than once. More than once. Right? So it's not just which keep the commandments and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. You can find them in the Bible. The rise of the Adventist Church in the Bible. William Miller in the Bible. Okay? That's the kind of detail I'm talking about when you understand this thing properly. Now, the sanctuary is what we have to, the sanctuary, let me backing up, sorry, me don't rush along. The sanctuary link, the ministry of Christ and the Bible narratives. The Bible narratives themselves. Oh, thy way, O God, it says in Psalm 77, right, verse 13, thy way, O God, is in the sanctuary. God's way, what is that telling us? It's not just some cliche statement. God is saying, if you study the sanctuary carefully, you'll understand my way, how I deal, how I operate, how the plan of redemption is going to go. And Christ's ministry has three phases, right? Prophet, priest, king. And the sanctuary has three compartments. And those phases of Christ flow through the sanctuary. And those phases flow through the stories of the Bible in the sanctuary. Look at your screen again, right? Look at this. So on the top, we have parts of the sanctuary. The second row, I have phases of Christ's ministry. And then at the bottom, I have the stories or the narratives of the Bible, both Old and New Testament. It's not just the Old Testament that has the symbolism. Matthew is an extremely detailed prophecy. The whole book of Matthew is a prophecy walking us through the 7,000 years of human history. That's what Matthew is, right? The same way you've seen me do with Genesis chapter 1. The entire book of Matthew is Genesis, is the unfolding of that which is encoded in Genesis 1. So the phases, the courtyard, where the animals were killed. The holy place is where Christ went immediately after ascending to heaven, after his resurrection, and the most holy place had specific things in there. So you have to familiarize yourself. If you look on the screen, there are different articles of furniture in the sanctuary. There are different things that took place on different feast days and so on in the sanctuary. And if you understand them and you know the flow and the historical fulfillment of them, you should be able to go into the Bible stories, walk from the court and from the courtyard to the holy, to the most holy in the Bible narratives themselves, and you'll find the events and the individuals associated with them, right? So now we have prophet. Christ's ministry as prophet is when he came to the earth. He died for us. The court is where the animals were killed. This is why the prophetic phase of his ministry is symbolized there. He's priest. He preached in the holy when he went to heaven to make intercession for us. And then he is priest also in the most holy in the judgment, interceding on our behalf before the Father. Again, you see the 10 Commandments? Where were the 10 Commandments given? I want you to think about that for a second, right? I want you to think about that for a second. The 10 Commandments are in the most holy place of the sanctuary. When Christ went to heaven, he left the court. He went to the holy. Then he went to the most holy. While he was in the holy place, specific events happened while he was in that compartment on earth. Specific events took place on earth while he was in the holy place of the sanctuary. When you're reading the stories, if you can find the compartments of the sanctuary, court, holy, most holy, you'll see the events that took place on earth while Christ was in the holy place, while he was in the most holy place. So, perfect example, like I mentioned just now, the 10 Commandments are in the most holy. Where were the 10 Commandments given? It's in the book of Exodus. It's in chapter 20. It's after Israel crossed the Red Sea. So the events that took place after Israel crossed the Red Sea, if you go study them out, represent things that happened after Christ entered the most holy place of the sanctuary. The 10 Commandments are there. The manna that fell from heaven is there. Right? That's where manna fell. Manna was kept in the most holy. Right? And that's where the whole thing takes place. Moving on. And he is king in the court. He returns as King of Kings and Lord of Lords in the courtyard. The altar of burnt sacrifice represents that. Now you have the Bible stories. The Bible stories will take you from the Hebrew or from the fall to 31 AD. The Christian era is from 31 AD to 1844, and the remnant era of the Christian remnant is from 1844 to the close of probation and the second coming, right? So the courtyard, holy, that's what you're looking for in the stories, right? That's what you're looking for in the Bible narratives. When you, for example, you go to the book of Kings, right? Books of Kings, and you see Elisha, there's a room, the woman gives him a room. He has a candle in that room, holy place, a table, holy place, a bed, holy place, if you understand what the bed represents, right? So everything can be typologically defined, and you would know that everything that's taking place at that point took place after 31 AD, when Christ was on earth, right? When he resurrected and went to heaven. Again, Christ says it this way: search the scriptures, for in them ye think ye have eternal life. They are they which testify of me. For had he believed Moses, he would have believed me, for he wrote of me. But if he believe not his writings, how shall he believe my words? Again, that's it for this segment. That's the true Bible code, is what I call it. He is not ashamed to call them brethren. This is the true Bible code. So that's it for this portion. Continue to watch. I'm going to try to do all 11 and release them at once. I'm going to do David and Goliath and others. So keep an eye out for it. Subscribe to the Arraigned Convocation YouTube channel and the Benjamin Anatoth YouTube channel. That's mine personally. But I just wanted to put some things on Arraigned Convocation for you guys to see and understand exactly how beautiful the scriptures are and how deep they can be. And again, like I'm saying, what I'm showing you is skimming the surface. Everything I've done so far is skimming the surface. The entire book of Revelation can be found in the Old Testament. 7 churches going all the way through, right? God bless you. Continue to study.